we've now got this thing where I can open my laptop. It's a desktop app that I made with agents, and it will in real time transcribe, diarize, which is split speakers, audio fingerprint, which is say, this is Sam, this is Victoria, and keep like a running transcript and flag when somebody says something that's a little bit chaotic or toxic or something. It'll flag that and be like, hey, you might want to rephrase that. And it keeps like a running emotional stock ticker or stock chart on how the conversation is going. It targets a 5-to-1 ratio of positive to negative things and essentially scores you on how well you're fighting. I really feel like we're at a point where, at least for me, there is no scenario where I'm going to click around in an interface to do stuff.
Today we're here with Sam Gaddis. Sam runs RunPoint. Sam, let us know what you're up to.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we've got a consulting company. That means we are always doing client service, which means we always have our hair on fire. And my agents are set up primarily to help me administer and make that part of my life easier. I think the main thing that I would show you first would be my Hermes setup.
Okay, so you have multiple agents running, and Hermes just happens to be one of them.
Yeah, so my Hermes agent runs on my Codex subscription, and it's using Claude 5.5 right now. And my primary interface for this agent is Slack. Okay. If you want to see that, I can show you.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Cool.
In terms of Codex 5.5, are you running it at fast? Are you running it just regular? What reasoning? Do you have it set?
It's on extra high reasoning and definitely not running it fast. For these agents, the way it's interesting. I never find myself annoyed by how long it takes to reason through whatever I'm trying to do. And you can absolutely tell a difference in time based on the complexity of the question that you ask it. If I say, hey, remind me to do this thing, it's there right away. And that's great. This is a very common use case for me. Grab my last granola call that I had with Jonathan and find the latest email from this client and draft a response to it based on the call that I had with Jonathan, and use GWS, which is the Google CLI, to do that. So my Hermes instance has all of that. What is required to make that work? Hermes has to have an MCP into granola, and it has to have GWS. GWS has to be authenticated to my Google workspace. And from there, it'll draft. It has default rules to draft rather than send emails. And so then I go into my drafts in Gmail, modify it as a human, and we're off to the races. That's my most common use case for that kind of agent.
And so you're sending that from Slack on your phone, Slack on your desktop, doesn't make a difference. It just
depends on where I'm sitting.
Yeah.
So let me share. I'll pull this up. So look, this is what I just said. Review that call I had with Jonathan and update the thread, this thread in GWS. I gave it a link to the thread that I wanted. And it said, all right, it's ready to go. And that took 2 minutes, which is fine for me. Somebody else wanted an invoice. So I put a link to the thread in Gmail and said, make up a PDF invoice, and here's where I want it to go. Some other things. I use it for basic reminders all the time. Deliver this link to me tomorrow.
And do you just have a one-on-one DM with your Hermes? I see It's Pointman.
It's called Pointman. And this functions as an app in our RunPoint partners Slack. So I can also use this to create different agents that live in specific channels and handle specific functions. So for instance, I've got Flight Desk right here. I can ask this agent without even referencing Pointman. I can say, hey, I need to go to Atlanta tomorrow. Find me the best flight. And it'll use that Hermes instance with rules about what my preferences are on flights and all that to find me the best flight and give me a link for that. We manage all of our project management through Linear. And so anybody in the company can reference Pointman and say, hey, update this ticket or update this project, considering that I just finished this task, and it'll go figure out which ticket is appropriate. And yeah.
Got it.
So my Hermes also has instance to all of my Runpoint and personal repos, but not client repos. So I never do coding with Hermes, and I don't let it touch client stuff directly. But I do come up with all these wacky ideas that I don't actually want to be sitting in front of Codex or Claude Code to create. Hermes is the way that you can do this with less hand-holding. You'll get something that is probably less close to what you want, but in many cases is good enough. And so we have a section on our website that's what we're reading now, and it's all the tweets that I have liked on Twitter. But I want to filter those for the ones that are only relevant to AI. So sometimes I'll like stuff on Twitter that has nothing to do with AI, and I don't want that to show up on our company website. Right. I only want the relevant AI stuff to show up. And so I made an agent through Hermes. I just told Hermes here in Slack, go make this thing. And I did this months ago. Go make a thing that, scans my Twitter likes and finds the ones that are relevant to AI and then sends those to my website for posting on this page. Well, the other day we rebuilt our website and I wanted to update this a little bit. I forgot where I even put that. I didn't remember what repo it is. I didn't remember what agent I did it with. And so I just asked Hermes, are you the agent that keeps track of my X likes? I want you to fix this thing, basically. Fix it in this particular way. And it did it. So giving it access to my repos is a wonderful unlock, because if I want to, like, a lot of times our engagements all start as a repo. And so we'll have a client call. I can then go tell Slack, hey, create a new prospect repo for this client based on the granola call, and it'll organize everything in the way that I want.
Neat. And I see that you had like 17 replies to that one task. So you have like a thread that goes back and forth with it in order to make it work.
Exactly. It's all threaded, and that allows me to go back and deal. Each of these is like a chat in Codex.
Got it. And then, so right now, so it got it working. It was able to find it and just handle it for you. Let's spin it up. Where is the Hermes agent living?
It's living on a Mac Mini sitting on my desk right here.
Okay. And it's always on. You have it running.
Yep.
And you kind of give it a machine. Do you have it? Does it have its own account? Like, how did you sort of set that up? Do you have a preference?
What do you mean its own account?
Meaning like Hermes, I know some people who have Hermes setups that have its own email address, sort of its own system, like its own computer.
Totally. Yeah. It's on its own computer, and there are definitely security restrictions. And I spent a bunch of time in the beginning doing all the configurations I could to make sure that this was as secure as it could possibly be. Some of those things, like for instance, not allowing it to access client repos, are obvious and pretty important. So I originally only gave it access to my work email. First, I didn't even do that. I was afraid of that. But once I gave it access to my work email, it opened up all of these use cases that are so powerful. And eventually I gave it access to my personal email as well. Now it's got a bunch of constraints and security protocols in there to prevent nefarious activity.
It doesn't send, but it just drafts.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's looking actively for things like prompt injections, which, obviously that is not foolproof, but there are a bunch of security measures in there, some that I won't even say, that I think are appropriate when you're running something like this.
Cool. So you have it dialed up. Like how long has it been running? Like how long has your Hermes sort of set up or iterations of this process for you? Like,
so I was on OpenClaw, I think 2 weeks after it came out. Our group was going crazy about OpenClaw, and I was a naysayer for a little while. And then once I tried it, I thought it was fantastic. But OpenClaw, as many people experienced, was not super reliable. You had to have a bunch of checks in place just to keep it alive. And so when Hermes came out, I was on that immediately, found it to be much more reliable. I do have Codex audit any error logs on an automation every night and then automatically fix things.
Oh, interesting. So automations for if Hermes breaks.
Exactly. So it'll just look for anything weird that happened in Hermes that day and fix it. And that has worked. I would say I've had 100% uptime. I've never had, since after the first 2 or 3 weeks of getting it dialed in, I have had no issues. It never breaks.
And
And
so,
it
but you
pretty
still
much
have
always
that
does
automation
what you
running.
want. I still have that automation running. Yeah. I don't think it does much. It doesn't catch much anymore.
Neat. Yeah, I found that both OpenClaw and Hermes to date have break less. Like there was a span where OpenClaw was just, they were shipping all these security features that just broke every single update, and I stopped updating. And now I'm pretty up to date on that stuff, and kind of wield both an OpenClaw and Hermes for different tasks, just because I have it set up on different machines. And
How do you split that up?
I have an OpenClaw that kind of runs everything, like all my personal stuff that I run through and all my personal tasks. It has its own machine. But then if I want kind of like one-off agents that I want to task, like right now, I'm recruiting and sourcing. And so rather than having my OpenClaw do it, I have a Hermes agent do it. And then I have my OpenClaw check in on what happened there. And so and it allows me also to like directly chat with the Hermes, but most of the time I have my OpenClaw kind of check there. And it's really, the real answer is it's just because how I set it up that way. It's not like because I wanted to test Hermes and I was like, okay, what's the project that I'm going to do with it? I'm going to build a recruiting agent, and take it from there. You can use it for personal stuff, or if I want to test out, the grok models on it, I had tested it out separately. So I'm sure there's ways that I could do the same thing with my OpenClaw, but it really was just how it got set up, and I haven't rewired it. I had noticed I was peeking at the Slack channel. It had sort of a Siri bridge. What's going on there?
So this is something that I started setting up yesterday and haven't finished. I wanted to create an iOS shortcut that allows me to trigger Siri on my phone just by holding down the power button and then say, Pointman, do whatever, and have that send to this Slack channel and thus be able to trigger my Hermes from my phone from Siri. That was the goal for
did
that.
Did it get working?
I did. Well, I think I did, but I just got busy and haven't been able to go back to it. But yeah, looking at it right now, I told it to make me a list of jokes and it did. So
cool.
I think it's working.
Right now, is it because Siri has access to Slack?
Slack, exactly. Yeah, that's why I'm using that as the bridge. You could probably do this many ways. That was just the way that I thought would be easiest. It turned out to be a little bit goofy. We'll see.
Are you on the new iOS beta for shortcuts?
No, I'm not.
So the new shortcuts is super neat, where you can just tell it what you want and it will create the shortcut for you.
Oh, that's awesome. I actually created it in Codex on my Mac.
Oh, neat.
So it entirely created, and then it syncs. Yeah, so it's similar.
Yeah,
I wasn't about to manually go tap things on my phone.
Yeah, that was the biggest thing always, is like shortcuts is super powerful, but going through the manual editor of like trying to do it. And so, yeah, I've had Claude in the past do it for me. And then now with the new beta, you can just say it and it will build it on your phone. It's super neat. But I don't know if it works with third-party apps or what, but it's coming. And I think more people will start using shortcuts.
I really feel like we're at a point where, at least for me, there is no scenario where I'm going to click around in an interface to do stuff. Like today, we launched a new version of our marketing website, and I wanted to match my LinkedIn to that site, the new language, the new branding, and all that. And I could ask it to audit it and then copy paste and click through LinkedIn. But with browser use, there's just no way that I'm ever going to do that. And so the prompt is essentially read our new website, update my LinkedIn to match the language, update our LinkedIn company page, and it just does it all and you review it. So I think,
are you logged in through LinkedIn, or you have the ChatGPT extension in your browser, or how do you have that set up?
Yeah, so the two mechanisms that I use for that both depend on Chrome CDP. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Codex browser use is trained to use that, and Claude is also trained to use that through skill. And so that has been incredibly reliable. I tend to use Codex for anything browser use.
Yeah. Yeah. And the computer use for the update yesterday also has been pretty great, where they have this picture in picture now where they show you what it's doing. Because before I would just do it behind the scenes and you would have to trust it. But now it actually, you can like
I
peer
haven't
into
seen
it.
that. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's super
But it
neat.
requires that you use the Codex app.
Yeah.
I like the Codex app, but I also love having access to Claude right next to it. And so my primary terminal tool is Superset.
Okay.
And I'll just have an instance for every project. I'll have an instance of Claude and an instance of Codex, and I'll tell them to talk to each other and stuff.
And you have a prompt that tells them to talk to each other, or in your like agents MD file, it references the CLIs.
Well, I do have, yes, that's true. It does reference the CLIs, and I do have per model routing that I ask it to reference based on the taste that's required and the level of complexity and the cost and everything of the models. But I'm more talking about the manual actions where I'll say, hey, Claude Fable, build out a plan for this, and then go have Codex 5.6 review it, and then come back to me with what you think we should do. And it'll just open up a headless instance of Codex and do that. That's a pretty common workflow for me.
And so do you find yourself only using agents when you're in front of a computer? Or I guess like the Siri is like for you to have some sort of mobile access to it, like something comes to mind, you just want a quick way to record and send?
There's two ways that I do stuff on the go. If I'm instantiating a project and you're doing that initial part where you have to think about the structure and you've got to create the folder, and you might want to dump in some context from Granola or whatever. That's nice to do at the computer. You don't have to, but I can at least make sure it's in the right dev folder and things are organized the way that I like. However, once a project is going and I've got my Claude instance and my Codex instance running on it, I just use the native apps, the ChatGPT app and the Claude app, to continue those sessions. Remote control is enabled by default on all my Claude Code instances. And Codex, I don't think you even have to enable that. I think it's already enabled by default. So I can always access those. And a lot of times when I'm doing something that's a long running or difficult task, I'll go in the sauna and make sure that things keep going there. That's one way that I do it. The other way, and I think people, I don't know, I haven't seen many people doing this, but I think it's better. I've got this big honkin' 128 gigabyte MacBook Pro that I run everything on. It's my fastest computer. It's better than my Mac minis. And I love this computer, but it's a beast to carry around. And if I'm doing actual coding work in the CLIs, you're still subject to that thing where you don't want to close your laptop,
right?
And you're walking around like an idiot with your laptop half open. And so my latest solution for that I love, I know you can, I totally understand, like Tan Pham has this great Tailscale approach where he puts it on multiple Mac minis in his Mac Studio and he's got headless instances running there. And I get that. I think that's cool. The thing that is easier for me is to run the best of breed remote desktop thing on my much smaller 13-inch MacBook Pro that is not nearly as capable from a hardware perspective, but I can open that thing and it looks just like I'm on my big laptop. I can't tell the difference. There's like a little bit of lag, and I've now got it to where it's automated to where it'll shut off my two big screens that are attached to my big laptop. And so it's a pretty much one-to-one experience, except I'm getting all the benefits of the computer stays on. I can close it immediately and walk around. And also I'm getting effectively 128 gigs on this tiny MacBook.
Yep. And so what are you using for that remote desktop?
I use Jump Desktop, I think is what it's called. Yeah, Jump Desktop.
Sweet.
I've previously used Any Desktop. I didn't like that one as much. That you kind of have to find the right one that works with your setup if you're using a PC or something, but this one works great for me. No
Nice.
complaints.
And then in terms of setting up different it sounds like a lot of the work that you're doing with agents is just running kind of your agency, running kind of like different client work. Are you ever using it for personal stuff?
Yeah, all the time. When you say agent, I think I want to understand more what you mean. Like I build things all the time for my personal life. I built a tool that scrapes all of the various Austin event things, do 512 and all of these others, and then puts them in a nice format that I can see. And that ends up being a website that people can go to. And I use it all the time. But I built it with agents, but I don't know if that's considered agentic in your mind.
Yeah, I think that to me is you build software, right? You build a product that agents manage. Like you don't touch it. It's like it happens to be, the interface happens to be a website so you can make it publicly accessible for others, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So
So,
if that counts, I have millions of those. And my favorite one that I did recently was a tool when my wife and I are in conflict and maybe fighting a little bit. We've now got this thing where I can open my laptop. It's a desktop app that I made with agents, and it will in real time transcribe, diarize, which is split speakers, audio fingerprint, which is say, this is Sam, this is Victoria, and keep like a running transcript and flag when somebody says something that's a little bit chaotic or toxic or something. It'll flag that and be like, hey, you might want to rephrase that. And it keeps like a running emotional stock ticker or stock chart on how the conversation is going. It targets a 5-to-1 ratio of positive to negative things and essentially scores you on how well you're fighting.
so
That's something that's
this is amazing. This is amazing for a bunch of reasons. One, I'm assuming you brought up the idea, not your wife, to do something like this.
kind of, but she's super AI pilled now. And so,
Okay.
yeah, I built the initial version, but she's like run with this thing and she's using Claude Code to change it, improve it. She got it all hosted. It's wild.
Okay. So she
She's
got it set
into
up.
it.
And is she in the tech industry? Does she have sort of technical background?
No, but my poor wife has to listen to me talk all day from my office. And so she's actually gotten pretty good. Like I would put her up against a lot of people who are in tech and she could
That's
outcode them
amazing.
for sure. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
So I'm so like enthralled by this idea
I
of,
could show it to you.
or yeah, I mean, can we get into a fight?
Yeah,
Record or
let's
like,
fight.
or,
I don't know if it'll capture your audio.
but forget about that. Like, how does it practically work? Meaning, y'all fight about something, and what are those things like? Sam, you didn't take out the garbage. Like, what are you guys fighting about? And then you have to then go to your computer and have this conversation.
Yeah, so we went through a phase where we were fighting a lot. We had like some crazy stuff going on. And so like sometimes you
All right,
just get
was
in these
animated.
phases where
Is
you can fight
better
about
put.
anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll be fighting about nothing.
Hmm.
And we read a book called Fight Right, and we both liked it. And I just thought, what if you applied these principles? It's one thing to read a book, but to actually indoctrinate your own brain into these concepts is really hard. It's like learning a new language.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the second that your heartbeat starts to rise and you get in this fight, everything goes away. And the premise of this is if you can just remember, and like you got to start slow. You got to try this out with conflicts that are not major conflicts.
Hmm.
And that's what we did. But we got to the point where it's like, hey, we got some free time. I was frustrated by the thing that you said the other day. Can we have a conversation about it? And you do 10 minutes in front of this. It's pretty interesting.
That's cool. Well, and have you found that both of you come away with just a better like communication style without even using it?
100%. And that's the point. The point is to learn the principles from the book. Really.
Hmm.
It's like, don't harsh start. Don't just lay stuff on. There's a specific way that you can word something that makes it much more palatable to another person if you have a critique or if you have something that you got to share.
Yeah. What's also super fascinating is like just an aside of taking a book and then creating interactive software.
Oh, cool. I got it. All right. Let me open it up. And I've got a cool demo mode for this too.
Really? So this isn't
Yeah,
your first demo for the product?
it is. This is my first demo.
No way.
Fable
Okay.
made this and it thought that I might need to demo it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Amazing.
um,
It's called Between
so
Us.
it's called Between Us, and you can go record, you can go to people and record a 20-second voice sample, and then it'll remember who you are from then on.
Okay.
Um, you can see that in my conversations with Victoria, I end up talking 60% of the time, which is not good. I should really watch that. But anyway, we would just hit record. I'll do watch a rehearsal and you can see what happens. And this is what shows up in real time. So this guy said something positive. I appreciated that you did this. It flagged that as connection. And you can see down here at the bottom, the emotional thing is starting to drift downwards because he said you're always on it. And now it's flagging, okay, you guys are way too hot right now. You might want to pause.
Huh.
You can say, no, we're okay, keep talking. Because this woman said, this guy said, I answer 2 work emails and suddenly I'm a terrible father. That gets flagged as defensiveness.
Yeah.
So anyway, you get it. And then it scores it at the end. And the main thing that you're trying to do is keep this ratio of this calling it hard to warm moments high. You want it to be in the green.
Fascinating. Have you reached out to the author to tell them about it?
We've thought about stuff like that, but I don't know. I'm a services guy. I love making software for other people. I hate marketing. I hate distribution. I'm just good at this stuff. So maybe Victoria has thought about reaching out to people. Maybe she'll do it. We'll see.
Cool. Okay. So right now it seems like if you have an idea, the first thing that you go to is like, let's make it happen, right? And have either your Hermes go to town and make it happen. And then like you have now kind of like new interfaces to interact with this stuff rather than, throwing your Hermes to custom GUIs for it, which is like makes the most sense in terms of software. Like we've learned this already, like nothing's going to happen or everything's not going to just happen in a terminal and a chat
Yeah.
experience, right? You're going to need custom buttons and interaction points. So that's amazing. That's super cool.
You bring up a good point that I think is relevant though, that I would interject on, which is like, what is the sequence of something like this coming to life? And there is a specific sequence. Usually it's, I'm in the car or I'm in the sauna or something and an idea pops up. And the first place I go is to my phone, to Slack, to Pointman, to Hermes and say, hey, I'm like roughly thinking of this idea and I'll just yap at it for 5 minutes and say, I want you to organize this and then do research. Are there any existing solutions that I should be considering? For this tool, I was like, find me the latest, the state of the art voice models that do real time. I want to see what is the latest and greatest tool for diarization and audio fingerprinting and build me a rough spec for this. And then because I also have Hermes connected to my Vercel account, it can create a web artifact. And that's what it comes back to me with, because you don't want all that junk in Slack.
Yep.
So it'll just deliver you a link. That is never ready for prime time. That's never shovel ready. So that just becomes a place where you store and capture that idea. And then when you're ready, you can give that. I usually, for my workflow, will go over to like Fable or now 5.6 and say, let's really dial this idea in and then turn that into a spec. And that usually happens at a computer at my desk with a CLI.
Why wouldn't you just go straight to Fable or to Codex? Is it because it's not connected to your Vercel account?
No, it's because that transition is helpful. It's a conscious decision to require multiple steps. If I am first thinking of this idea, it's not very good. No idea is good at the beginning. They need to be refined. It's just like writing, the first draft sucks. And so I want as many iterations as possible before I actually start building. And Slack is an easy way to capture all your ideas. And I can iterate with it there. I can, in the thread, say, I don't like this, change that. What if we do this? But yeah, I actually like that barrier.
Yes. I guess it allows you to have the sort of pause, but also as someone who builds software, like, that it just takes time, it takes iteration. And so you don't want to sort of one shot it because you yourself are not certain of like what feels right,
Yeah,
what roads you need to know. So you would rather like a lower fidelity mock up, but it's more of like interactive, lower fidelity type of product. And then if you're still excited about it, then you'll spend more tokens on it later.
totally. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
exactly right.
Yeah. Super neat. And then, yeah, I think one of the things that I was interested in about the latest announcement yesterday with chat updates has been their chat sites. And I think it's like artifacts. And so you can kind of have those types of experiences that's there. And so Shopify had announced they have an internal system that they've been using for a year to share these artifacts. So everyone on their teams are able to do it. I actually had Fable build it out for me, for my team to internally use. And so, yeah, it's interesting to see everyone kind of come around and like, oh, to actually use these things, you need artifacts. You need a way to like
You
make it
do.
interact. You need a way to
Yeah.
sort of quickly share it. And so everyone's kind of getting to the same experience.
We had the same thing. We've had a subdomain for artifacts for our company for, I don't know, a year or something. And I was on another podcast today talking about the exact same thing. The guy was saying their company also needed a way to share artifacts. And their concern is as OpenAI and Anthropic start to try to capture more of the vertical experience of you as a worker in the enterprise, that becomes a mechanism for them to lock you in. And so his contention was, as much as you can, it makes sense to build this on your own. Right now, Claude artifacts that now get delivered from Claude Code, this is a new thing as of the last couple of weeks. I don't know if you've seen it, but you can ask Claude Code now for an artifact in the same way that you used to be able to ask Claude Desktop or Claude Chat. And that seems really cool, except that for whatever reason in Claude Code, you're not able to share those.
Huh.
And so this is a disadvantage to me. Their artifacts are worse than the one that my system produces. And this kind of stuff is coming up all the time. Then you get into like model agnosticism and maybe probably a different topic.
Yeah, totally. But I think it's one of those things where, you are already doing this by having multiple agents, multiple sort of whatever we call them, like they're orchestrators, right? Like handling kind of work for you and then delegating them out to other LLMs or people or what have you. To not have lock in, to not just use one, because the diversity is helpful, but also your control. At the end of the day, like if you want to, I don't think there's real lock in these days. Like even if you have, everything locked into the new ChatGPT sites, you can just have Codex say, hey, go export all this stuff to
Go
Cloudflare.
grab it. Yeah.
That it's just like one more step or more tokens to use, or it's like eventually at a certain scale, it may be too costly to export. But I think from having kind of good hygiene from day one as an enterprise, right? Like that was the biggest thing that people were saying with the tagging Claude or a Claude
Yeah,
tag or something like that. It's
exactly.
like, oh, now you're building your entire enterprise on Claude. And so people were quick to use open source versions of that and et cetera, or using your own agents. But yeah, it's super fascinating times. Like we're still like kind of learning and yeah, the big models, big labs want to own all of it. And I don't think they will. I think that there are going to be thousands of players in the space. We're just early in this new era, whatever we end up calling it.
I don't think anybody has any idea, but I do think some level of sovereignty will be relevant to most organizations. I think there's good reason to protect your harness, your context, and make these models as hot swappable as they can be.
And also I think the context too, right? Making sure that you're controlling your context. You're able to then use any agent and provide the context you need whenever you want.
100%.
Yeah. Cool. What other things are you excited about that you haven't tried yet? Because I feel like there's like new stuff coming every day and like setting aside time to play with them all is really like a full-time job.
Yeah, this comes up all the time. What have I not tried yet that I'm so excited about? Video. Video is the thing. So I have this big essay that I'm working on about the wacky economics of replacing your SaaS. And I have a real clear vision for that, and hopefully I can get it on paper in a way that's articulate and useful to people. What I'm not good at, because I've never done it and it just have a little bit of maybe fear and shame around it, is video. I don't mind being on a podcast. I love doing this, but the idea of sitting in front of a camera and recording some video like you see these guys doing on YouTube, I just, that's not my thing. Although I think it's really cool. The latest models are getting so good at producing that kind of content. And I sort of dream of a day, and I think it's going to happen in the next couple months, where I can produce a written asset that is significant and meaningful, and it will produce me in a nice studio environment, articulating that in exactly the way that I want.
Yeah.
What a phenomenal way to learn. For the people who haven't seen it, it's a guy who's got to be the best of the best at producing long form videos. These videos are like 15 or 20 minutes long, and a completely fabricated AI influencer will go to D-Day or ancient Egypt or, Rome in its heyday and walk through with the tone of a modern influencer, but with relatively accurate historical depictions of what happens. And the purpose is very clearly to teach people about history. And what a powerful way to do that, because we remember what has an emotional connection. And video is the best format, obviously, for creating an emotional connection. So I'm really excited about that. Have you experimented much with that?
So I tried doing video a number of years ago, and it just took too much time. And it's kind of demoralizing, right? You spend 2 days, maybe sometimes a full week on a 20-minute video that 300 people watch.
Yeah.
Right. And you're like, okay, cool. 300 people is not nothing, right? And I look back at some of the content and it's like cringe, and it's totally fine. Like, I don't mind being cringe. I think it's more about, in order to get good at it, you got to just put in the reps, right? You got to start doing it. And you also need editing. Like, the editing is like the most important like aspect of it. And now I would say you have a lot of the editing tools come out. I feel like every day on X, there's like another Claude for video type of thing. But I saw someone use the new 5.6 to do video editing with the HeyGen video editing, right?
Yes.
And,
the one that was in our group.
Supposedly someone created this video that was completely generated by codecs. The problem with all that is, cool, now it's accessible to everybody. Does that mean all content now is the same and it's not interesting and people, won't watch it because it just smells like AI video? In the same way, like, if I read an essay or if I read an email that's just clearly just Claude wrote this thing, I just stop. I can't. Like, you don't have respect for me to edit this out. I don't have respect for you to continue reading it. Even though the content might be interesting, but it's not worth my time. I might as well just send it to my, claw and say, hey, read this for me. Give me the bullets, And so I wonder, I think from the thing that you had pointed out, which is it's entertainment. Can you make it entertaining? Can you make it interesting? And can you get your message across that it will resonate with you? And that just takes sort of time and iteration, I think, to get there. I think that you then reach the point where it's basically becomes like Mr. Beastisms, which is like Mr. Beast puts out content that is so dialed in for like the human psyche to just be entertained by it. And it's usually like, oh, I paid someone $10 million to do some wacky thing. And there's some like history sort of content like that. And I don't appreciate it because they're always leaving you with like cliffhangers to sort of get to the point, because they know, like, I can catch the sentence structures are written in such a way for you to stay to watch for 20 minutes because they get paid more, right?
They're maximally monetized.
Maximally monetizing the content. And you're like, this 20-minute video could be 2 minutes long, right? And so I think there's an aspect of the balance between entertainment, infotainment, and just clear information. So
this is such an awesome topic.
Yeah.
I am very much on the optimist side of this and very excited about where it's going. I think the main thing that we have to remember is, when did all of these models, the LLMs, start getting good? Forget video. Last December was
Yep.
when people started saying, oh shit, like you can actually do stuff, real stuff now. We are at the very, very beginning, and people are complaining about the caliber of the writing of these models and the many recognizable proclivities, not this, then that, and
Hmm.
all the other things that AI does. Okay, if your 12-year-old son had brought you some paper that was written today by AI, you would say, this is absolutely amazing, even if it had all those AI conventions in it. That's point one. The writing is actually good, but we're so used to it because we're so inundated with it now. And it's so uniform and not diverse that it becomes extremely annoying and recognizable for anybody who's paying attention at all. However, that's obviously going away. And we know that these models can be tuned however you want. And so whether it's the frontier models or the open models or some individual who creates a harness that's good for this, human creativity will produce, using LLMs, writing that is diverse and interesting. I know it. And yes, will they maximally monetized and try to hack the human psyche? Of course. Of course they will. But some people will be artists that do this for different and more aspirational reasons. And I think that's really exciting. Like, our website today is so much better because of 5.6, which came out yesterday. It's so
So
much
you're
better
basically
today.
updating everything in real time. New model comes out. You're just clearing
We
house.
ripped through our entire company operating manual, our entire website, our manifesto, everything, and it's much more clear and much better. So, yeah, I'm just super excited because I think we're getting to the point where, look at the Chloe from History stuff. That was a ton of work that guy put into it. And also the one that you're talking about that was in our group from yesterday, the Hey Gen 5.6 video. You know, both of those guys spent 10 hours minimum on that
Yep.
stuff. That is not a thing that you can pull off right now, at least. And so that is a recipe for creative, interesting things that are going to be coming out. And of course, some people will monetize it, but some people are just going to produce beautiful works of art in the form of writing, in the form of videos. I'm here for it.
Yeah. Sweet. Yeah. I think I'm not a hater on that side, like in the slightest. I think that right now, in this time where the content is just smells
Yep, it's
bad.
gross.
But yes, if I squint, I can totally see this play out, and some stuff is really entertaining. And I would say most people who don't interact with AI every day like we do, in the kind of like and can tell the difference between a 5.5 and a 5.6,
Yeah,
the clearly are entertained by this content, right? Like you'll see it on X, you'll see these like long posts go viral, and you're like, this is just written by AI.
I know.
I think we're just too close to the metal to know, like, oh, where the source of this stuff comes from.
Yep.
But I think, like to your point, we won't by the end of next year. No way, no way.
And I also I like the fact that I can see the difference in 5.5 and 5.6. Like, you can see the difference in the model, but I can also see the difference in the person behind it. And so if somebody sends me a job application or a piece of work or some artifact that they created, I can tell the caliber of that person's. Maybe I can't differentiate their thinking from how advanced they are in using AI, but it's still information that's very relevant to me. If they give me something that looks like slop, that's a signal that's really important, especially if I'm
Right.
trying to hire somebody. And because I know that you can use a combination of your human brain and the best models available to produce incredible assets. That's what I'm looking
Yeah.
for.
So funny enough, like I don't know, maybe last month or so, a friend of mine needed help positioning for his company and product, and he sent me some AI slop. You know, I edited, I wrote my own version of it, sent it back to him, and he's like, "What model did you use for this? This is great." I was like, "Oh no, I wrote it." you know, and so
Yeah,
I think the assumption right now is that everyone's just generating the work, and to your point is how you're wielding it and how you're able to maybe use it as like just a starting point, and then you refine it or finish it in the same way you handle your emails, where it starts your emails, then you just like refine it and send it, is kind of the human aspect of it. I refuse to use the word taste because that's not It's just, you know,
Yeah.
the your internal humanity of it.
Right.
Sweet. Well, Sam, thanks so much for chatting today. It was so cool to see how you're using Postman. Where can people find you, learn more about what you're working on?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter, but not super active. Probably the best place to find our writing and videos and all that would be on our website, runpoint.ai.
Cool. Well, thanks
And
so
thanks so
much.
much for having me. This was awesome.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, you had mentioned multiple times, but we're in a group chat together where people, share different interesting things that they come across and find. But even so, even though we're sharing on a daily basis, kind of having these sort of check-ins just in real time of like longer conversations around the depth of what we're seeing is really interesting to me. And I would want to start sort of having more of those conversations publicly because like I feel like both of us are the type of people who are like, we're happy to share everything like that we come across because
Yeah.
there's so much and there's so much that can be adopted and most people won't because it's just there's too much, to be honest.
Yeah, there's no like secrets to arbitrage here. There's
Right.
there's plenty of work to be done, and it's just what narrow path do you want to carve for yourself? But
Exactly.
I think these are great. I love doing them. Let's do it again.
Awesome.
All right.
Talk soon. Later.
Talk soon. Bye.